So start me out. What?
Okay, we're going. So, Bill, where did you live in Iowa?
I lived in Sioux City, but basically I lived all over Iowa. But I was home was Sioux City when
Okay. All right. And hang on. Don't rock because that affects the motion.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because it's autofocus, so it'll keep going in and out of focus.
All right, I will rock.
Well, try not to.
Okay.
I know it's comfy. So anyway, you were in Sioux City. How old were you when the war was on?
Well, I was 18 when I got drafted, which was I was 18 in 43.
Yeah.
So
18 and 43.
October of 43, I was 18. That's when I got. That's when I became eligible for the draft.
Did
Yeah.
you get a letter from Mr. Roosevelt?
I got the letter in December, I think.
On your birthday?
No, didn't get it on my birthday.
Yeah. So, where did you get inducted into?
Camp Dodge.
Oh, you came down to Camp Dodge.
Camp Dodge, yeah.
Right. How much time did you by the time you get
We came. I got drafted in January, and I showed up at Camp Dodge.
Shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
you were talking about days, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was
Hang on a second. I can hear that faint.
about 6 days.
Do you remember anything about Camp Dodge?
Yeah.
Well, tell me what your experience
Well,
was.
we
As an 18-year-old kid from Sioux City.
I was in college when I got the draft notice, so I went down to Camp Dodge for the physical.
Here at Ames?
Yeah, I was in college at Ames when I got my notice.
What were you studying?
Aeronautical engineering. And went down took the physical and passed it, and came back, went back home to Sioux City, and then 2 or 3 weeks later I got my notice to report at Camp Dodge. So came on a train from Sioux City to Camp Dodge, and we were there about 6 days. And
What was that like in your first?
well, they
Were they mean to you?
oh no.
You said you were going to get a physical, right?
No, I had the physical. I got a haircut and got clothes and got a uniform, and we took tests, Army classification tests,
Right.
and then passed that. And then they put 6 or 7 of us. Were selected to go. We were to go to Miami Beach for basic training in the Air Force, and we were on the train in Des Moines to leave. And the MPs came on the train, took us off. They'd closed the base at Miami Beach at the big hotel. So we went back to Camp Dodge for another couple days, and they sent us to Shepherd Field, Texas, at Wichita Falls.
Did you kind of wonder why are we going down to Miami Beach, then all the way back to Iowa, probably in the time to the beach, you know?
Yeah.
This isn't fair.
Well, we didn't think about it. We just did what you were told.
You'd never been out of the state before at 18?
Oh yeah,
Have
yeah,
you?
oh yeah.
Where else did you get to travel to?
Well, we'd been just neighboring states, you know, as
South Dakota?
Yeah, as a family, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Illinois, and you know.
That's just not out of the Midwest.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So you got back to Camp Dodge.
Back to Camp Dodge, and there 3 or 4 days, or maybe only 2. I don't remember exactly. And from there to Wichita Falls, Shepherd Field, and then there we had our basic training, which lasted about 10 weeks, I suppose, maybe 8-10 weeks, something like that.
What did they teach you to do there? A lot of marching.
Marching, drill, used handle weapons, so a carbine and a .45 and a submachine gun. And
M1 Grand?
no,
No M1s?
no
Just
carbine.
What were you classified as then?
Just a private in the Air Force.
Okay.
The Air Force basic training. We didn't train with a Garand. We trained with a M1 carbine, and I was supposed to go to aircraft mechanic school.
Right.
I was slated to do that at Amarillo, but they had the Air Force had a shortage of gunners about that time, so they bypassed
Yeah.
AM school, and I went right to Las Vegas to aerial gunnery school.
What's out there? What was the name of the base out there? Was it Nellis?
It's the same one that's still there.
Nellis.
Nellis, whatever it was.
Ellis.
Yeah, I don't know. We just called it Las Vegas Army Airfield. It probably didn't have a name in those days.
Well, they didn't have a Las Vegas either.
Well, they had Las Vegas, yeah.
I mean, there was no gambling there until.
Oh yes, there was. Yeah. Oh yes, there was. There was no strip like today,
Yeah,
but there was a
casinos.
small town. It was a small town, maybe 8,000-10,000 people, I suppose.
So what do you do? What'd you do? What did you train on at gunnery school?
B-17s, and trained on 50 caliber machine guns, and learned how to take them apart, put them back together,
Yeah.
and did a lot of skeet shooting.
Oh yeah, very important.
Yeah, that's a tremendous amount of that. The gunnery school took 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks. By the time you got there, got started, and then you finished and got shipped out. You were there. We were there. I was there probably from. I was probably there a good 2 months, maybe a little more.
Did you get time off now that you're at school and out of basic training? Did you get time off from basic training?
No, I just no.
Yeah.
You mean time off? You get a pass to go to town?
Pass or something like that.
Oh, once in a while, yeah, once in a while, but not very often.
Did you get more of a pass at the air base in Las Vegas?
No. Payday, you did. You got paid got paid once a month. You got paid in silver dollars at Las Vegas. So there was gambling. That's the only place in the Army where they paid you in silver dollars.
Right, so
that I know of.
Something I never heard of before.
Well, they paid us once a month in silver dollars. You didn't get very many. Time you bought your war bond and paid for your insurance and your laundry, all that came out of your $50 a month. So
Sure.
you might wind up with 20, 25 silver dollars, maybe.
What were they paying you? $50 a month?
$50 a month, yeah.
Plus all the food you could eat and a nice place to sleep and no clothing to worry about.
That's
It's all
true.
provided in transportation.
Oh yeah, for free transportation.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah, board and room.
So what was a typical day like? How would that work at gunnery school? What would, just an ordinary day? You get up at, would they get you out?
You got up quite early. I don't recall the time, but you had
5:30 or something like that?
you had some drill, you had breakfast, you had some drill. 2 or 3 times a week you had physical education where you did calisthenics and and played touch football in the sand, and
Right.
then you went. Then you had a lot of class. You learned aircraft recognition, taking apart 50 caliber machine guns, putting them back together, and you had to learn how to do that blindfolded.
I was just going to ask you that.
You did that blindfolded, yeah. You had to pass the test. You did it blindfolded.
Yeah. But it was only 50 cal, right?
Yeah.
Did you have to learn how to lay out your ammo and your links and all that stuff? Or
Oh yeah, you did. Learned all that stuff, and did a lot of skeet shooting.
yeah, learn how to lead the target?
Yes. Don't always lead them. Sometimes you shoot behind them.
Yeah, well,
Depends on how fast you're. It's still leading.
it's kind of a fun way to learn, though.
Well, yeah,
Skeet
it was did a lot of skeet shooting, hours on end.
Oh, yeah. No, that's too bad.
Okay.
Too bad you had so much fun over there.
The Las Vegas to Florida
Right?
and Tampa, and you're assigned to a crew. you met some other people, and you wound up being on a crew, and then we trained then for 3, 4, 5 months as a crew.
Right in the Florida area?
Well, in Tampa, in Tampa area at Drew Field. There were two B-17 bases at Tampa. One was MacDill Field,
Okay.
and one was Drew Field. Now, Drew Field is now the Tampa International Airport.
I think that's still there, isn't it?
It's still there. They don't call it Drew Field anymore.
Well, I mean, MacDill is.
MacDill is still a base.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
It's still there. It's
Yeah.
a regular Air Force.
yeah.
Because they use those for the.
I don't know what I don't know what they use it for, but anyway, they had 2 bases, and you trained there, and you flew. More aircraft recognition, more training on skeet shooting, more practice ditching procedures, and
Did you get any parachute training?
well, they told you how to open them, showed you how to, and yes, we had a tower we had to climb up on and jump off of to teach us how to land
Right.
with a but I forgot how high it was. It was in a big pit full of sawdust.
Probably like 100 feet or so.
No, it wasn't that high. No,
40 feet?
no, maybe more like 15 or 20.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you just jumped off the
Just
ground.
jumped off of it,
That's
yeah.
what it felt like,
Yeah.
jumping off the roof of your house.
Yeah, but you need to learn how to have your knees and land, and yeah.
Keep your feet together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. Did you do, now, that whole area in the Gulf of Mexico, there was a huge area I saw on a map that was blocked out for,
They used for gunnery practice, yeah.
did they have, what'd they do, tow stuff?
You'd tow the aircraft would tow sleeves that you'd shoot at, or you'd have something floating on the water that you'd shoot at, or an area marked off with buoys you'd drop practice bombs in and stuff, yeah.
Probably a lot of ordnance laying at the bottom of that Gulf.
I would imagine.
EPA wouldn't like that today, with all the
well,
lead in the water.
I'm sure there is.
So from Tampa, what was your group then? Have you got assigned?
Oh, you're not assigned to a group there. You're training as replacement crews, and then from Tampa, probably from Tampa you were transferred to. Well, from Tampa, generally, we got sent to Savannah, Georgia, where you were pick up a new bomber and fly it overseas. So, but they'd give you a delay in route from Tampa to Savannah. So I had about 10 days at home, and then we got a new B-17, flew it from there to.
This is in 44 then, or early 44?
Late 44.
Late 44.
Fall of 44.
So you were flying the G's then, right?
G's, yes.
So, and no paint? No paint, just silver? Aluminum?
The new one was, yeah. It was G, and we flew it from Hunter Field to Bangor, Maine.
You stopped for gas?
At Bangor, and then we got snowed in, and we were there for 5 or 6 days, and we had to start the engines every day and clean the snow off the wings, and then we finally got clearance out of there. We flew from there to Gander Bay, Newfoundland.
Okay.
And we were there maybe 2 days, and from there flew overseas.
You didn't stop at Greenland or Iceland?
No.
You just went to Scotland then, or the North?
We landed in. We were supposed to land in Scotland. We landed in Nuts Corner, on Northern Ireland. A navigator got lost halfway over, so. And we didn't have enough fuel to get to Glasgow, so we landed in Nuts Corner, but.
Was he able to live that down from you guys after you got there? About Almost got you lost.
That's another story.
He didn't get in trouble or anything, did he?
He got out.
Out of being a navigator?
Yeah, he got out of the service. He lied his way through all the eye charts, and he was, by the time we flew our first mission, he was on his way home.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How'd they catch up with him?
Well, he went, as soon as we got assigned to a group, he went on sick call and said, he went to the medic and said, I can't see anymore. There's always one of those kind around, you know.
You think they would have caught those guys in the preliminary testing, you know?
Now, he memorized eye charts. He always peeked in the door, looked, you know, talked to the guy. He memorized eye charts.
So he couldn't see to begin with?
No.
Well, how did he pass? I wonder how he went through navigation classes.
Well, he could see well enough,
yeah,
but he didn't have the vision that you were supposed to have to fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He could have well have served as a most anything, you know.
Yeah.
But no.
Wonder
He went.
Wonder if he was drafted.
No, I think he enlisted, and he got a nice education and veterans benefits, and
She should have sent him to the infantry.
there's always somebody out to beat the system.
Oh yeah, it's so true today.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in Ireland, then you had to wait for another navigator.
No, we didn't. There's always spare navigators around.
Okay.
You flew to, we flew from Nuts Corner to Valley Wales, and that's, there you turned in your new bomber.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to it after that. They retrofitted them to, and then we got assigned to the group and got on a train and went to Molesworth. And we got to Molesworth about 9th or 10th of December, '44.
Just in time for Christmas.
Just in time for the Battle of the Bulge to start on the 16th. But yeah, but.
And then just in time for it to be grounded.
Yeah. It didn't fly.
They had the worst winter in 40 years.
True. We didn't fly a first mission until January 6th, 17th, 5th, or about the 5th of January.
Yeah, because the weather broke.
Weather was bad. Yeah, weather had been bad.
Now, did you guys get were you issued your flying clothes here in the States?
Yeah, yeah.
So that came in handy up in Newfoundland then?
Well, yeah, although we had them all packed, we didn't dig them all out.
Yeah?
But we had them, yeah, with the parkas and the winter clothes, yeah, we had them.
Now, Ray says those guys, when they were ready to go over there, the crew members were stashing booze up in the bomb bays with the luggage and all kinds of stuff in there to get that contraband over there, because you never know.
That's true.
So then you got the moles. What was the accommodations there like? Was it like you see on 12 O'Clock High, the Quonset huts that you lived in?
We lived in a wooden barracks, and then we had about they must have had about 5-6 crews, about 6 crews of enlisted men, all in this one long barracks building.
Oh, it's 60 guys, right?
Well, there wasn't that many enlisted men on the crew. There were only about 6. So we'd have about 36 guys in the building. But there was a lot of coming and going. Some of them had been there for several months, and then you had new guys and guys who just arrived. But we were in the Quonset hut we were in there for a couple months before we got into a Quonset deal, or Nissen. We called them. Guess we called them Quonsets.
Yeah. Well,
somebody called them Nissen huts too.
But it wasn't. You didn't have much snow over there at Molesworth in England. They don't.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of snow.
Same as over in Germany.
That winter we had a lot of snow. Yeah, we had a lot of snow. We had a lot of snow.
Did the weathermen? Did you go to the briefings and he'd say that, like, fellas, we can't go anywhere. The weather stinks.
That's right. Yeah.
we're grounded for those. You might as well get
They
it past.
cleared the runway. They cleared the runway, though. We'd fly. There was a lot of snow, but we'd fly.
Oh, yeah?
There was a lot of snow, but we had a lot of snow in England, too.
Yeah.
And the days it didn't snow, it rained.
Well, you're still doing training, right, over England?
Some, not much training. It was maybe we flew 2 or 3 practice missions
With the formations?
in formation and and then we started flying missions.
Okay, so how did you guys end up in the 303rd bomb group?
Well, that's where we did our practice ones.
Oh, okay.
After we got there.
After
we got there,
They
yeah.
just said, here, this crew's going to this, and the
They-
groups didn't get to pick, did they? I mean,
No.
whoever needed the replacements,
They
got the crews.
they needed whatever we had. The group had 4 squadrons. There's 4 squadrons
Right.
in the group, and whichever group needed whichever squadron needed replacement crews, that's where the crews went. So.
Mm-hmm.
And a normal mission, they only would put up 3 squadrons, so there's always 1 squadron standing down. And some days they'll put up maybe a squadron made up of half of one squadron, half of another, put together to make one. So
That's 6 aircraft
no, 13. We'd have 13 in
in
a
a
squadron.
squadron?
So we would have 39. If we had the whole complement when we took off, we'd have 39.
Right.
Put 39 in the air. And generally, somebody had to turn back before you got there because they had a mechanical problem or something. So oftentimes, you only might wind up with 30, 33, 34 were the targets.
Well, then you'd be short a plane. You'd be short 10 guns on there for protection.
That's true. Yeah, but you had adjustments you made in the formation if somebody dropped down.
Well, now it's your first chance to you cross the Atlantic. You had a birthday then, right? Because you didn't have a birthday yet, though.
No, I had the birthday in October when I was still at Tampa.
Yeah, you were still in training,
So I was 19. Yeah.
But it was your first time going to Florida. Your first time going.
Oh
to
yeah,
Newfoundland,
lots of
Maine, the East Coast.
Texas,
Yeah, flying over the Atlantic.
Nevada,
And then
You know.
Europe.
yeah, doing lots of traveling.
What'd you think? All expenses paid.
True.
What'd you think of that as a 19-year-old kid? Were you kind of wondering what's going to happen next?
Mostly you wonder what's going to happen next. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, pretty naive. You're pretty naive, and pretty naive.
Well, so you're over at Molesworth, and the weather clears up. Now you got mission number 1, right?
Yeah, which you flew. They took the enlisted men and put them with some experienced officers, and they took our officers and put them with other crews, and that went on for first 2 missions. The 3rd mission, we all flew together as a crew, as we had trained together. Less our navigator, who is now, he's back home. And we're flying with just spare navigators. But there's always a spare navigator around. And there's always a spare gun or 2 around, Guys get sick, crews finish their missions. Some get shot down, killed, wounded. And so there's always spares.
Well, tell me a little bit about the training that you had being for your specific job of ball turret.
Well, both the...
Because waist gunners don't have to do that, do they? Or do they?
Oh, yeah.
You have to learn every position?
No, you had more training. The waist gunners generally were too big to fit in the ball turret, so they had learned how to operate the top turret in case they needed to. And they could operate the tail one, the tail guns and the waist guns. Ball turret...
How does a ball turret operate?
Electro-hydraulic motor. It's made by Bendix Corporation. And
Well, you had to operate it with your feet, right?
No, you operated the sight with your feet, and your hands operated the turret. The turret moved 100 or 360 degrees in azimuth. That would be,
Right.
yeah,
Full circle.
and 90 degrees up and down. So if you think about that, I mean, that lets you view everything. And you had cutoffs on your gun so that you wouldn't shoot your propellers off. If you had it up, the gun's pretty much horizontal and you're shooting forward.
Around, you'd knock
Yeah,
the blades
you
off.
shoot the tips of your props off.
How the heck did they do that?
Well, they had the cutoffs on the deal, wired into the turret some way, so you could not.
You could only go so far, and then
Yeah, well, it would go clear around, but the guns wouldn't fire at a certain point, even though you pressed the buttons for the triggers.
there's a clever. Whoever invented that, that was pretty clever.
I don't know who did, but they did.
So how was the gunner, how were you positioned in the turret?
It's a kind of a fetal position. The turret's 40 is a complete ball. It's 42 inches in diameter, and you're inside the ball, and you have your 250 caliber machine guns and your oxygen equipment and your around 500 rounds of ammunition
Right.
and the motor and everything else that runs it's in there. So there's not much room.
What if you get a cramp?
You just cramped.
There's no way to even. There's nothing.
No, you wear it out.
Did they ever have to pull you out of there? And, like he can't. He can't stretch his legs out. I mean, some of those missions.
Took a little while.
I was gonna say, how did they? Was the door behind you?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to load from the top of the ball or the back of the ball.
Well, you didn't get when you got in the ball after you took off,
Right.
and so you point the gun straight down. That puts the door up inside the airplane. You climb in, and then you latch the door. You can latch it from inside, and
Well, how would they get you out of there if they needed to?
they had a hand crank up there, and they could crank it around by hand and get you if they remembered you're still there.
But you locked yourself in with the door, though.
Yeah, but I could unlock them from in there.
What
too.
if you were wounded? How are they?
Well, then you might have trouble.
Because how do they get the door unlocked from the outside? You know, inside the fuselage.
Oh, they have a way to do that.
Oh, it was. They
Yeah.
could get you out.
They turned it up and the latch deal's recessed. They could unlock it and get you out. Yeah.
I always wondered about that because I never saw it.
If they took time to do it. Most guys, if you would try. We use chest pack parachutes, and if you wore your harness, and if you were careful, you could learn. You could stand you had a little seat you sat on in there of armor plate.
Right.
You could stand the parachute. You could hook it on one side and hook it under your arm. It made you had to keep your arm up like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you could still reach the two latches. So if you could get I don't know anybody ever did it, but we always said that's what we would do if we had to do it. If you could get the guns up level, then you could unlatch it and roll yourself back out of the turret. That's in case everybody up above had forgotten you and left, see.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. How much training did you get on ball turret operation itself back at, in Florida or Texas or wherever you got the training? And I said, did they have a turret on a frame? At the
yeah, they did. Basically they did, and then as they got a little further along in the gunnery, they had one sitting up on a tower that you operated, and you shot clay pigeons out of it with
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah.
Well,
They had shotguns mounted in
oh,
there.
no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, for crying out loud. Well, that's kind of nifty.
Yeah.
So everybody got their, so that's probably where you spent most of the training, was operating that.
Well, a lot of it, yeah. Most of the bulk of it on the guns, so learning the guns and the deflection to use on targets
Yeah.
was.
Well, did you have to, like some pictures I saw where there were some guys like in little cars that they had like on a little set of tracks, or they're a wagon or something, and they'd have to push, they'd have to.
Oh, we did it. I don't use car. We used they had a big, like a track, irregular route track, and we stood in the back of a pickup.
Okay.
Pickup going about 35 miles an hour, and you had different skeet stations along the route. They would shoot birds out at you from different angles, and you had to get so many of those to pass the test too.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd keep going back.
Yeah, otherwise you'd keep out there till you did it. Yeah.
Well, that's probably, I'm sure that paid off after a while.
Well, I think so. Yeah, hope so.
Yeah. So your first mission then, after the ball turret,
Yeah.
you couldn't, and naturally it was so crowded in there they couldn't put a heater in there for you.
No, but they had
Heaters in there.
you had heated suits.
Oh,
There was no heaters in the airplane, period.
Right.
So everyone wore electrically heated suit, but it was.
Your shearling jacket. You know that.
I didn't wear. Yeah, you could wear it under the leather jacket. Some guys wore leather jackets. I didn't. I wore a big. I wore a. You had a heated shirt, heated drawers.
Your long johns were heated.
Well, they were like you wore long johns underneath, and then you wore long johns. Then you wore. I wore long johns, and I wore like a regular flying suit, winter flying suit. Then I wore a big. I wore the. Well, I guess I had the electric one underneath the flying suit, and then the plugs stick out. The shirt plugs into the pants plug into the feet.
Yeah.
And then you had gloves that plugged into the. And then I wore a heavy quilt-lined wool suit over the flying suit and the electrically heated stuff. So that's what I wore, and that's what most guys wore.
God, you're dressed up like an Eskimo.
Oh yeah, it adds a lot to your stature. It uses a lot of room too.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the shoes alone were they like?
Well, no, we had a special shoe in the ball turret because you worked the sight, the head of what they call the computing sight, and you worked the lights in the sight. The sight had a little viewing box. You worked the light bars in the sight by your left foot. It raised it up and down like the clutch in a car. It adjusted the bars, and you framed the target inside the.
Oh yeah.
The light bars, yeah.
Well, as you're moving around real fast in that circle, following an ME 109 or something, you got to have pretty good coordination there.
Yeah, you needed good coordination. A 262, the turret wouldn't move fast enough to track him, but the others they would.
Yeah. Oh, so you guys were over there because.
Jets, yeah.
Well, I interviewed Hal Higgs too, who was with the Hunters Bomb Group, and he said, "What one of those in 45s? He was like."
Well, I flew both of them in 45.
Yeah, and he said we didn't know what it was. We've heard about them, but we never saw one. They went zooming by, and they weren't very effective, I don't think.
No, they were very effective. Except they just didn't start using them soon enough. That was
Well, they couldn't stay up there very long either.
Oh, they could stay long enough.
Long shoot down at least one or two.
Oh, they did a terrific amount of damage.
Yeah.
They would have. That was, as I understand it, that was Hitler's decision. He decided early in the war that there should be tactical bombers rather than fighters, and
Yeah.
that's what they used them for. But when they used them as fighters, they could stay a while. They were way ahead of us technology-wise. They were way ahead of us. We burned 100-octane gasolines. They in their fighter aircraft they used like 60-octane gasoline, and they made it themselves out of coal.
Yeah, they invented synthetic fuel. Why can't we do that?
We could. It's the same technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, on the first mission, you guys had to get up, at 4:30 in the morning or whatever, and go eat breakfast, and then go to the briefing, and then they pulled back the curtain, and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome our new members to the 303rd.
No, they didn't say just you're
Here's
there.
the mission for today.
This is where you're going. Your target for today is, and this is.
What was it?
Yeah.
Remember?
No, I don't. I got a list someplace, but I don't remember.
Yeah. You remember if it was in Germany?
Yeah,
Belgium, France, Germany. Was it
Yeah, mine all were. Well, not all of them, but most of them were in Germany, and
Yeah.
I think we made two in two down to southern France, where they Bordeaux, where they bypassed a pocket of Germans. But we did that later. But our first early missions were all in Germany.
So it was like railroads.
Railroad marshalling yards, railroad yards, aircraft factories, synthetic fuel plants, and those were critical targets. Those were generally most heavily defended were the fuel plants and aircraft factories. Submarine deals like at Bremen.
Yeah.
Bremen, there's another city up there.
Well, in '44 they were going deeper. You had fighter support then, right?
Yeah, we had fighter support. Yeah, we had earlier. They hadn't, but we did in '45.
Yeah, '43 was bad.
43 would have been bad. A lot of losses.
Yeah.
There were a lot of losses even until the end, but percentage losses were not as large because you had more. Early on, you might put up 100 bombers and they lose 60 bombers. And later in the war, I was there on missions where we lost 60 bombers, but we put up close to 1,000.
Yeah.
So the percentage was.
Well, plus their aircraft production was dwindling, right? They didn't have.
No, they had enough planes. They were making more planes than they had people to fly them.
Well, then we have to go after the runways, and the factories,
And guys, then get people to fly them and fuel for them. A lot of times they didn't have fuel.
But you guys didn't have any trouble on the first mission, then, as you recall, right?
No, we didn't have a lot of flak, or we didn't have a lot of fighter opposition. We didn't. I think we only had fighter opposition maybe 3 or 4 times. We had a lot of flak.
What was flak is bad.
Well, it's worse.
Because you're sitting there in the plexiglass.
You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's like there's no place to hide on a B-17.
No, there isn't any. No trees to get by. No.
Yeah.
True.
We're going 150 miles an hour in a straight line at a certain altitude, and the Germans know that.
That's right. They figure that out, doesn't they?
From the lead group. And they can zero
If they can see you, they can hit you. They're good. They have real good gunners. And then in later years, or later, they developed, they had radar-controlled anti-aircraft batteries. And so they could, once they calculate your altitude and your speed from the radar, then they put up a box barrage and on your course, and you have to fly right through it. So you don't have any options. So you can't take any action because you're on your bomb run. But
It's
No.
like walking through an exploding minefield.
Yeah,
When all
basically.
of them are going off at once.
That's basically about what it amounts to.
Oh, man, that's scary. So you remember the second mission? Do you recall any missions that were?
Yeah, I remember the third one. We got shot up on the third one. So,
Okay. How bad?
we crash landed in France. But and it was during it was the tail end of the Bulge deal. It would have been like January.
Middle of January?
No, it was earlier. January 5th. January
First week?
5th, 6th, 7th. 7th or 8th of January.
Okay.
45. And we lost two engines on one. We got hit with two engines. One of them was on fire, and the bomb release stuck, damaged that too. So bomb bay doors were open, the bombs are all hung up in there, they won't drop. So we had to release them by hand. But time we lost so much altitude so fast that we got the fire out.
Yeah.
The fire went out, but we still had two engines out. So we got the bombs out, but we don't know where they lit. Doesn't matter. And then we flew the wrong way. And then we flew into Germany for about an hour or two before we realized we were going the wrong way.
How'd you realize that? Was somebody chasing?
We lost the group. See, and it was a cloudy day. You couldn't see anything. And we got a radio beam from an airfield in France, and we followed it, or we thought we followed it, but read the compass the wrong way. You went 180 degrees the wrong way. So we're flying into Germany instead of away from Germany. We're flying into Germany, but it's a cloudy day. Nobody noticed us. So when we turn around and come back, now we have a fuel problem, so we crash landed. So.
And so when you have to drop the bombs like that, do you disarm them, or are they?
No, you just drop them. They're armed. The pins have already been pulled.
Oh, okay.
All the pins have been. The navigator, the bombardier, does that soon after when you get over enemy territory. He pulls all the pins out of the bombs.
So
the bombs are all armed.
Going though.
Well, we knew they were going. They were going in.
Enemy territory.
Yeah. We were near. We were over Koblenz, which was a industrial city on the Moselle River, but we knew they were going someplace in German territory, but didn't know where.
Yeah. I had a little hairy mission there.
So
you guys came back in, and so you didn't have to bail out. You bellied in?
Yeah, great. The plane is. They salvaged it later for parts, but.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
They had crews from the.
They had the crews from the 8th that roamed around France and Belgium and took parts off of downed bombers. Yeah, they had that. That was some guys finished their tours and volunteered to do that, and they stayed over. They would do that. I don't know whether they got promotion or paid more or something, but they had people that they would fly. A lot of parts could salvage out of a plane.
Oh, sure.
And they would do that.
Yeah, I saw a lot of some footage on salvage stuff. Right?
And some of them they would repair and fly out. If they could get them to near an airfield.
Yeah, and the Germans got a lot of our planes.
They got some too, yeah.
And they were flying them.
Oh yes, they flew them.
And see, there's not
they would never get right into the formation, but they'd sit off to the side. You'd see them once in a while.
Well, there was a recorded hit from an Italian pilot who was flying a P-38, and it's the only recorded time that another American plane shot down another American plane over enemy territory. A B-7, the B-24, I think he shot down. But how would you know if it's one of our? If it's I think they had to have their markings on there.
Not necessarily. They just fly them.
Well, that's dirty true.
They just sit out there, but that's one of the ways that they calculate the airspeed and the altitude and.
Oh, that's right. They fly alongside, radio back, and you didn't know if they were friendlies or enemy guys.
No.
Unbelievable.
But,
so what did you see up there on that? How many missions did you go on?
35.
Well, 30, same as Ray then.
Yeah.
So what were some of the worst, what was the worst one? You don't remember all the missions, right? Some of them were milk runs?
No, if some were milk runs, not, you know, all, you're scared on all of them because you never know what's going to happen. But worst targets were we call it Merseburg area, which was synthetic oil plants. Bremen, which was submarine pens. Hamburg, shipping was a big port.
Right.
And Berlin, which was, of course, the capital. I think I went to Berlin 4 times.
Yeah.
Went to Berlin 4 times. Bremen 2 or 3. Merseburg, I don't know how many. Several. Munich, big rail yards. Munich, railroad yards of Munich. Cologne. And Dresden. Went to Dresden 2 days in a row. That was a controversial deal.
What was wrong with that deal?
That's the one they killed more people at Dresden than they did at Nagasaki.
Oh, the firebombing.
Yeah.
So you guys had incendiaries then?
No, well, yes, we did too. The British bombed all night, and then we bombed in the daytime, and we did drop incendiaries, and they did create firestorms, and you know, but we created firestorms in some other cities too. But those at Dresden were the worst.
Yeah. Well,
Destroyed the city, and the city had never been bombed before until that. It had always been kind of, and the Germans realized that it was a historic place, and it was a center of it was a transportation center, and it was a big hospital center. And then munitions plants. My last mission was to Pilsen, Czechoslovakia, Skoda munition company,
Right.
and that was my 35th one. So that was, and that was turned out that was the last one the 8th flew.
In the war?
In the war. That
Really?
was the last combat mission they flew was April 25th, 1945, and it was to Pilsen, Czechoslovakia.
So the 303rd, you guys flew probably with Ray Schleit, with the 390th, the 100th, and some of these 1,000. How many did you do the 1,000 plane raid in Schweinfurt?
No, that was ahead of me.
Different groups?
That was the Schweinfurt ones were in '43, and I think they were ahead of me, and they might even been ahead of Ray. I don't know. They went in August. They went again in October.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of people, a lot of airplanes. They didn't have any fighter escort.
Now you had a pretty good bird's eye view from. Did you guys were you always in the same formation? I mean, were you like lead group in the squadron?
No, you'd got
All switched around. All the time?
different time,
Low group,
different groups, different lead groups, different positions, different spots in the.
But you were lucky
squadron.
enough to have bad navigators, so you never got to lead the group.
Well, yeah, we were deputy
Just
lead
teasing.
several times, but
Yeah.
flying with another navigator, you know.
Yeah, the luck of the draw.
Hmm.
If you found a navigator who could hit his plate with his fork. Remember that line from Gregory Peck and Paul Buckeye? And so I forgot to get back to the part where you guys had. What was it like when you had to bellyland? Was it in France?
Yeah, I was in a little village near a little village called Tournai, and that's not too far from Verdun. It's in Normandy.
Yeah.
It's in the part of France known as Normandy.
That'd be probably
Northern France, yeah. Well, it was real cloudy. We didn't until nobody wanted to bail out. We didn't know where we were for sure, and finally they made a decision in the cockpit that they break down out of the clouds, and first likely spot they saw, we'd land. We'd try to land, and we did. We came out of the clouds, and we weren't very high when we came out, maybe like less than 500 feet, I'd say.
Now, did you use that throat mics? Or what'd you use for your...
We had one built in the oxygen mask.
Oh, okay, so you cover it like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you heard all that, you guys were constantly on chatter on the radio.
Yeah, because when you're at altitude, somebody has to check on everybody once a minute.
Your test fire.
Well,
on the way over. Eh? Or did you test fire when you crossed the channel?
That's where we always did the test firing of the guns on crossing the channel.
What if a gun jammed? They wouldn't turn around for one machine gun.
No, you're supposed to fix it.
Okay. Unjam it. Well, that's not too bad because all the animals you can reach inside a B-17, right?
Right.
Okay. You guys never had a ditch though, like in the water.
No.
So that was lucky. As Ray had said, he followed a ship out that went over Holland and went to the Zuider Z or something. He followed, she circled around and make sure that they were all right, and saw the rescue boats coming with them, so they got out. But if you got in the water with your flight,
I've seen guys ditch, but no, we never did.
Yeah.
No.
So what was the procedure then going down when you got out? You broke out of the cloud.
Well, you got in the radio room, all of it except the people, the pilot, co-pilot, and the engineer were. We got in the radio room and braced. You could brace yourself in there a certain way. They told you how to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody got hurt except one guy got a bump on the head, but.
Well, that's pretty lucky.
But nobody got hurt.
And did you ever find out if they came and got your plane?
I didn't know that till after I was on my way home from England. I ran into a guy on the boat, and we got to talking. He'd been on one of those crews that went over and salvaged.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what was the name of the aircraft?
Sweet Pea.
Okay. Well, who named it? Or was it that
Somebody ahead of us.
some other crew before you guys?
Yeah.
So how many planes did you...
Well, I don't know. How many different ones did we fly in?
You remember any other names on the airplane?
Half a dozen, maybe. And we had one we flew in, but we never got around to getting it named until the war was about over, and the guy never got it painted until after we left. Teddy's Rough Riders, they called it.
Yeah, you told me that one.
Yeah.
I don't know
That's the one we flew most of the time.
I wonder if that made it through the war.
Yeah, it did. It got destroyed down at
the salvage.
Enid or someplace, yeah. Because I saw a picture of one of the collection points, and it was parked at the end of the road.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Well, there was a lot of them. We could all have bought one, if we'd had
Yeah?
any money at the end of the war.
Well, they're probably going...
You could buy them for about $13,000.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Well,
You could buy one for about $13,500, I think.
How much was a new car?
Well, you could buy a new car for $2 or $3 at the end of the war.
So
My folks bought a new Buick in 1947, and bought a Buick Special. That's the bottom of the line. Cost $2,000.
So a bomber would be about 6 times as much as a new
Bomber cost, yeah, if you'd have bought a used one. The new ones cost around, when they were new during the war, they cost around $360,000. B-17 did.
Well, a lot of they used some of those bombers for
Fireworks, yeah.
Because they could hold a lot of water and a lot of chemical to put the fires out. But then you got to have a lot of maintenance on those things.
True.
With the Confederate Air Force, they were always flying up to There was a guy in Minneapolis at the airport, I guess, or some hangar up there, and he repaired those Wright Cyclone engines. And I think they had to machine the parts.
Oh, they do have to make them, yeah. True.
I don't know where the heck they got this.
Collins, the Collins Foundation, I don't know where they're from, but they own a B-17 and they own a B-24. They still fly them around the country.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
They're
great,
sure.
but how much does it cost to run them?
Oh, well, they have to. Well, a B-17 burns 50 gallons an hour per engine at cruising speed, and that's 100 octane gasoline, 100 octane fuel. 50 gallons an hour, 4 engines is 200 gallons an hour of 100 octane, and you figure out what does 100 octane cost you at 2.5 a gallon?
Well, that's racing fuel, isn't it? I don't know. Where do you get 100 octane gasoline?
Well, what we buy, the octane reading on your gas with ethanol is 90, 89 or 90.
87 or 90 you can get
Yeah.
for premium,
Yeah.
but 100 I never.
Well, there you could get I don't know whether you'd get it, but you could soup it up.
Yeah.
So you get so it costs, say, $3 a gallon. So you got $150 per hour on each engine, so that's $600 per hour.
Well, the Confederate Air Force had the B-29. They flew it in. They flew it once around the field over here at Rockford Air Show, and they said there was 250 gallons a minute for a B-29. I said, no wonder they only flew it once. It cost too much.
Oh my!
Well, that's why you could get to be a colonel in there for $300 for your membership.
Yeah,
And then everybody's a colonel.
it's all about money.
Oh, sure. But someday they won't be flying any of those because they can't afford the fuel.
True, true.
You know, and so anyway, what was the worst mission you remember? Did you see planes? Did you see any other airplanes, aircraft in any other formations around you get hit?
Oh yes, that's
Because
yeah.
you had a bird's eye view.
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
bottom.
yeah. Right. Often.
What keeps the belly gunner when you're following a fighter that's coming after you from cutting another plane in a lower squadron?
You have to use your head.
Well, I mean, if you
Yeah, you could easily shoot your
lower group,
yeah, you could shoot your other guys. Yeah,
well,
and and I'm sure it happened. You know, there's lots of stuff in the air going around.
Yeah.
Pieces of airplanes and flak and bullets and yeah.
Well, Ray told me that he showed me that one story they had written down about that. Well, he said he saw it out of the corner of his eye because he was in the tail airplane of the lead group on the high, and he saw the lower group. The one guy was flying like that, and he ran into some other bomb group.
Yeah. Collision.
Turbulence.
Collisions are bad.
And he said he dropped down to get out of the turbulence, and the guy behind him wasn't very experienced, I don't think, and he should have dropped down with him, but he ran right into him. And they locked, engine locked into their wing, and they were at 22,000 feet, and they were going down like this. But they lost, out of 20 guys, they lost 3 guys. Everybody else bailed out. And they're in somewhere over Holland, I think it was. So what, did you see that stuff happening to you guys?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, but specifically, yeah, often.
So then you got, in the after-action reports, you had to
You remember.
debriefings.
Yeah, a debriefing. You talk about all that stuff. The worst mission, I suppose the ones I remember most significantly are the ones we got in trouble on, and that one, Berlin, first time to Berlin.
Yeah, but that was a lot of groups though, right? They didn't just.
Oh yeah, a lot of, but
You knew they were going to have a lot of flack.
Yeah, our last mission, our one at Pilsen, because our group made, they warned that was our last mission, so you're sweating it out anyway. Particularly, you're going to finish that one, you're going to get to go home. They'd warned the Czechs by radio to not work in the factory that day because the war was nearing an end, and they thought rather than kill all the people. But the Germans have the same radios too, you know, and so they just rolled in all the flak guns on railroad cars before we got there. So we had extra flak that day at Pilsen, and we made Bombardier screwed up. We made the group made 2 passes at the target, and we made 3. Our squadron made 3 runs over the target, and
At the same target?
yeah.
Oh, before you...
Before they dropped the
bombs,
bomb, yeah. But that, you know, that's kind of silly. That gives, that's like you go duck hunting, and the duck, you miss him the first 2 times, so he decides to come back and give you another chance.
Yeah, right.
So
Well, didn't you feel that it was all on-the-job training? Because World War I was no help.
no, yes, but mostly you're scared, you know.
Well, sure you are.
You're scared, and I think the first 5 or 6 missions you're scared, and then you start getting tired, and you get so tired you begin to think you don't think you're going to make it, and then the last 5 you think, well, maybe you are going to make it, and you get more scared again.
I thought you were only supposed to go for 30. You know,
No, they started out 25.
It was Memphis.
And then it got to be 30, and then it raised to 35.
Yeah, because that's what Ray said. He said, we thought we were going home on our last mission at 30, and then the XO pulls them aside and said, we need you guys for 5 more mission. Well, you said, well, that's too bad. That's what 8th Army said, or 8th Air Force. So what was do you remember the particularly bad mission? Did you have fighter escort then?
Yeah, we did.
To Berlin?
Yeah.
Was it P-51s?
51s, sometimes 47s, but generally 51s. But sometimes you'd have 47s the first part, and then 51s would pick you up. And
But in 45...
most of the time we had 51s.
Right. What mission did you see the 262s on?
To the oil places. And once to Bremen. I shot at one once. Got a probable, but my pilot said you got him, but they rated it as a probable.
But nobody saw him go down. How could you follow? He went by so fast.
They went by so fast, but he pulled up, and then he went by. He pulled up out of my vision, but the pilot saw him, and he said he saw him go down. But then you didn't follow him clear to the ground and get his name, rank, and serial number, so call it probable.
Well, that's pretty good though, shooting at a jet, one of the first jet aircraft.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about that? Did they already tell you about the 262?
We knew about them, yeah.
There was another one before that, the 163.
Well, yeah, there was a little one that was short. He didn't have any range at all. He just came up and down.
That was the one
that was the rocket one, yeah. The 262 had a little fuel.
Yeah. So what did they tell you in the briefing about these new aircraft?
Not much. They didn't know much about them. Said it was a possibility, you know.
We don't know how they operate, but they go real fast. You
Yeah.
runners stay alert up there.
I think so, yeah.
Jeez, criminy. That's horrible.
Can we shut this off a minute? I need to tell my wife to make my... I generally...
Lunch?
No, go see my... We came... we were at what they call Stone, England, which is a replacement depot and places where you go to get prepared to come home. We were at Stone, England on VE Day on our way home.
Okay.
Our crew was. And from there to Glasgow.
How'd you get there?
By train. Everything by train in England. They had a good rail system. And from Stone we went to Glasgow, Scotland, and we came home on the big liner, Ile-de-France,
Right.
which was the 3rd biggest, I think.
Right.
And
To New York City?
yeah, first ship in New York after VE Day. We came home with 1,300 Air Force people and about 12 or 13,000 Canadians, First Army, Canadian First Army. They'd been overseas 5 years. Can you imagine?
So they didn't even speak Canadian when they got home.
Well, a lot of them jumped ship in New York. Said we can hitchhike home
Faster than this.
faster than we'll ever get there, going through Halifax. So.
Yeah, but did you get to call home? Did you get to use the telephone from New York to call back here? Back
Once we got to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, then I could call my phone.
Call home, let them know you're all right, and you're
Yeah,
coming back.
yeah.
And then but you didn't get discharged there.
Oh no, I didn't get that was in May, and I didn't get discharged till October.
From where?
From Oklahoma. I went from Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, to Jefferson Barracks, to Sioux City for furlough, and Sioux City to Santa Ana, California for rest and recuperation, and then from there to Frederick, Oklahoma to A-20 air base, and they had me as a clerk. And sooner or later, I'd have got retrained for B-29s. But
Yeah. Did they ask you to re-up though? They said, Carter, we need you.
No. They sent us down there and just going with the flow. But they started letting people out on points. You got a lot of medals in the Air Force, so you started adding up your points, and when they got down to 75 points, I got out. They started out 85, and when they got to 75, I had 75, and I got out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So towards the end of the war, they started reducing the number of points. Then. There were too many guys.
After VJ Day, they started
Yeah,
reducing the points, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
And then how'd you get back home though?
We hitchhiked from Frederick, Oklahoma. A bunch of us, we rented one guy had a car from out in Nebraska, and we pooled our resources, and we pocketed. They gave us transportation money from Frederick, Oklahoma to Sioux City, to the air base, to the Sioux City Air Base, and some other guys, and we drove it, and pooled our money, bought gasoline and couple of tires on this old car.
Yeah.
Then I got discharged at Sioux City.
Okay.
And hometown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a bomber base at Sioux City, right?
Yeah, right.
Is there any remnants of that up there?
That's the Sioux City Municipal Airport.
Yeah, but I mean, is there anything left over to let you
Don't
know?
think so.
They
No.
don't have a monument there or anything for the...
There might be, but I haven't been back. But I don't know. They had a B-17 there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then people started taking pieces and parts off of it. And somebody finally bought it and put it back together and flew it out of there. That was back in the 50s
Right.
or 60s.
Yeah.
And it wound up being used for firework.
Great.
So, but anyway.
Well, so did I ask you, what did your mother think of that when you got drafted?
She expected it, you know. I mean, she wasn't
Was there other
happy.
boys in the family?
No, I had a younger brother, but he wasn't. He was 7 years younger, see, so
No, he didn't even.
he missed it. Yeah, he missed it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure she's worried, you being the oldest.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Because a lot of mothers are, they don't say something.
Mothers worry.
Yeah, they
Dads worry too. So.
Yeah.
Parents worry.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting experience, you know.
Yeah.
One of the ones you would not take $1 million for, but you wouldn't.
Never do it again.
No, you wouldn't pay a nickel to do it again.
Yeah, that's right. Experience of a lifetime.
Right.
So you got back, and then you were a world traveler.
Right. I was.
See you
yeah.
at Free from the Air.
Right. Yeah.
Is there
Been
any-
back to England once, but haven't been to Europe.
Are they restoring Molesworth, I think?
They never tore it down. They
It's still
made
active?
it bigger, yeah.
Okay.
It's the Joint Analysis Center. It's where they stored the missile components from the Cold War.
okay. You told me that when we were talking on the phone.
It's got a razor wire all around it, about 3 different levels of razor wire and electric fence, and It's administered by American and by NATO people,
Right.
mostly RAF and American people.
Yeah. Well, I think they were, there was some air base up there where they were protesting outside the base for the nuclear stuff, you know.
That probably was it.
I don't know what they were doing there, you know, protesters. So what was for a final thought though, how do you think that people today view what the Great World War II was?
Oh,
Today's society, you know.
oh, I don't. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know much about it. It's not taught in school. It's not. History books barely don't dwell on it unless you specialize in history or something. They don't know much about it.
Right.
They don't know much about it.
Do you think we're losing our historical perspective on this country? And,
I think we're losing our historical perspective about a lot of things, not just wars, but history. Period.
Yeah.
So I think too much emphasis on what I have or what I'm going to get, and
materialism.
Materialism. Yeah. It's as a man said, it's all about money, and that runs all the way from politics to religion.
Well,
it's all about money.
A lot of guys that cashed in on the war effort. Companies did.
Oh, yes.
But everybody had contingency plans over there. I didn't know that Ford made B-24s, Ford Motor Company. Did not know. I didn't know that until I started looking into it. I thought everybody, even John Deere up in Waterloo, made tank engines or something. They had.
We had companies that sold stuff to the Germans all during the war.
Well,
we had German companies that were never during the war they made they used slave labor and stuff, and they made drugs and chemicals and stuff and engines, and they're still in business today, and we still buy their products.
well,
Hitler never bothered those people. He needed them.
well, there you go. That's kind of un-American, I suppose, slightly.
I don't know.
I wish we had more time, but you got to go, so we can end this here because I think we covered everything. Unless you can think of anything else.
No, I can't. You can dig out stuff. Because
I'm trying to find stuff like combat. Did you ever have any combat motion picture guys flying in your aircraft? Any of the aircraft?
No, not while I was there. Gable had flown with our group.
He was in the 303rd?
But he'd done some of his missions with the 303rd when he was over there, yeah.
So he always had a camera crew.
Yeah.
But I thought he got assigned to the camera unit, the motion under John Ford, by the War Department. Because I know Ronald Reagan was, when he was down here in Fort Des Moines. He was in the cavalry, and then he got promoted to captain or something, and they off to the motion picture.
But we never had any, no.
So he did training films or something.
We took pictures, just for the group. We had every B-17 has a camera hatch in the radio room, and we would our radio man would take pictures, bomb strike pictures, stuff like that. But no, we never had a movie camera crew along.
Okay. Well, because you had your own photo reconnaissance equipment.
Yeah.
But it was mainly on the bomb. Did they get a book? Do you guys have a book?
Yes, we do.
I need to get a picture.